everyone, I'm Cydney Adams and I'm here hosting Composition. I'm joined tonight by Laura Kestrel, who's a spoken word artist and author of Lambs with Manes of Lions, and also Ben Ward, who's a fellow filmmaker, and we're here to discuss the premiere of their new film, poetry video for It Rains More Than the National Average. So Laura, if I head over to you, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hello everyone, I'm Laura Kestrel. You might have seen me before, I don't know, probably around. So yeah, I had the pleasure of filming one of my earlier spoken word pieces, It Rains More Than the National Average, with the lovely Ben Ward last year. And we got to film it in the summer, and we got to film it in Cornwall, which was really just beautiful because obviously it's about growing up in Cornwall, so it seemed only right to film it in Cornwall. And yeah, we're really excited to show the video to you guys. Yeah, anything to say, Ben?
Not really. I think you covered it all. Well, I just introduced myself. I'm Ben Edward J. Ward. The name just sounds cooler that way. Just like a filmmaker, just been kind of making films for nearly 10 years now. Wow, I feel old right now. Anyway, yeah. So I came across in 2018 the lovely Laura Kestrel during the Spoken Nights as like the photographer, and after that we sort of became like just a partnership. And then she just came up to me with the idea like, hey, I'm this poem. I will make it into like a sort of like a poet film. It's like, you can do it. It's like, absolutely, I will. And then we just head down and just film Cornwall and just the beautiful landscape that is. So, and here we are.
Awesome. So first of all, I'm going to ask a few questions to you both, and then I will ask questions individually. And please feel free to jump in with each other's answers as well.
We have a video here. I think we're actually going to premiere the video first.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay. So the premiere of Ben and Laura's poetry film, It Rains More Than the National Average.
Woo!
We are just waiting for Connor's technical skills.
Oh, yeah, that's the beautiful age.
Yeah.
Rains more than the national average. Every winter, a barrage on the senses. Storms breaking walls, a carnival of chaos and clouds. Waves roaring loud over cars, using the main road, which naturally runs right next to the sea. But then the summer arrives, everything comes alive, dusted in the sun's rays. The tired farmers leave their fields, their armour a cider or 10. There's always a rally or festival day, again, an excuse to drink underage. Makes a difference from the park or houses sparking up in the garden and on the beach, meeting people you didn't realise you already kind of knew. The local pub, always the same, a hub for after-work activity. Don't blame the young for wanting change. The barmaid knows you, your mum, your auntie and cousins. They say everyone has 7 degrees of separation. Definitely an exaggeration here. The distance is more like to shop floor gossip and skate park chat about somebody new. They came to the village from London. They don't know how we do things here. Slow go the many tractors, you chose the wrong time to shop. It's car boot day, our first local pork burger of the year and rattler on tap. They say as soon as you leave your mother's breast, you're weaned onto the stuff. Whether it's Galawan or in the towns, you can never get enough. Fields worth of ploughing in every which way available, always able to meet a young filly. She's from your fondness of Helston, a little far from home, but don't you worry though, she's borrowed a mum's car and she's not planning on crossing the Tamar. There's a charity barn dance next week, there's every chance, so your parents have their first meeting. Everyone follows the same routine, same town, same school, often the same final scene. to your university town that the gap grows ever further. Though you'll fall into home life with ease, but please, by now, you know the drill. Cornwall's always steady, always still. Not much changes, at least not quickly. Not like the East who butchered the pasty. Now, I don't want to get nasty. The pasties are okay, but there's nothing like your great-grandmother's recipe passed down from an ancient great-great-auntie. Cornwall, you ready, please? I sat on your hills when I was young, the sun hitting my face. A bike ride, tractor ride, horses and sea, with plenty of space to think and roam free. No, I'm not saying it was easy sailing. A reigning miracle in my town is that anyone left at all. GCSEs weren't something everyone had. At 15, sons left school to work with their dads on the farm. No harm in that, but armed with no choice. My grandmother once told me, you get your degree. I moved 8 miles my whole life, married with a child before 20. Plenty of people do it, and that's fine, but that was never a plan of mine. Mine so close, fishing, gasping for breath, it still struggles, but don't worry, there's jobs and power, one of pirates. Pirate, the local Boxing Day shoot. Tradition is what we have here. We have our myths, we have our slang, no other language sounds as warm as when my local dialect is around us. I'm no longer just a Cornish bird. I'm a mix of Cornwall, Manfredonia and Canterbury, but Cornwall is what raised me. I'll always remember the place I called home for so long, no matter where I go. After laughter fills my fondest memories of living so close to nature's hand. The land teaching me to forage. Norwich, Leeds and Portsmouth are interesting too, but nothing will stay with me as much as you. The deep West Country. The jam and the cream, time stands still there as if to dream. I was lucky to grow up there from Tintagel to Penner. It's our own little world, no matter how far we are apart. I'll always be a Cornish person at heart. Better than that, in fact, my home county, Cornwall. Thank you for raising me.
Cool, thank you guys. That was awesome. That's so exciting that that was the premiere of your video. And just, I guess, just to kind of ask you, Laura, if you want to say where people can find the video, if they want to watch it again, is it on YouTube or where can they find it?
Okay, so what I'm going to do is, now it's been premiered, you'll be able to catch the video alongside our interview on Whisky Beards Publishing page in the video playlist. And in a few days' time, I'm going to upload it onto my own page, Laura Kestrel, and I'm sure Ben will upload it to his page too. But we want you to check out this video first. So check out this video, and then in a few days' time, we'll upload the poetry spoken word video itself straight to Facebook.
That's wonderful, thank you. So I'll first start off by asking you guys a few questions together, and then if you want to jump in, that's absolutely fine. So have you worked together before?
Yeah, we kind of like, I think like I mentioned in my intro, like we first met like when she was hosting like these spoken word nights up in Falmouth, like a local pub here. I was like doing like videography, photography, and it's funny. I approached her like on the Facebook chat saying, "Hey, I'm kind of like want to like get spruce up my experience and my portfolio." And I thought, I always want to do spoken word, and I saw this like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then just on the night when I met her, we just got talking, and we just kind of just kept in contact. Like, I want to come back for the next one, and then Yeah, that's kind of the first time. This is our first time working in a film format. It was refreshing.
What Ben said, really, I knew there was a spoken word night in Falmouth, which is obviously a university town, kind of the only university town in Cornwall. So we had a lot of people that would come to the nights from all around the world, all around the country. But yeah, so I basically contacted them and was like, I heard that you used to have a spoken word night here. And they were like, yeah, we used to, but the people that were running it graduated. But would you like to set one up? And well, those of you that know me know I like a bit of a challenge. So yeah, I set up a spoken word night, and that's where I met Ben, and we decided to film the video. Yeah.
That's great. It's so good to see the collaboration between poets and filmmakers. I've had experience with myself filming with poets from around Kent, and it's just great to always watch the collaborations. Do you think that poetry videos are becoming more popular?
You want to take this one?
Yeah, all right. I think they are. Yeah, I think we live in, I mean, the spoken word is changing all the time. Poetry, I think, is changing all the time. And what, a few centuries ago, we touched on this before, what happened a few centuries ago was when page poetry was such a big thing, and people were reading page poetry, but only kind of the upper classes were reading page poetry because other people didn't have access to it. And what the brilliance is of spoken word is it's a way of getting poetry to the masses. It's not just poetry for the elite, it's poetry for everyone, and it's accessible by everyone. And I think, yeah, I'd say in recent years with Disraeli, with some other great names out there, definitely there's been a surge in popularity of spoken word videos, I think, yeah. I mean, just the nationwide adverts on TV, you've got, they had some great spoken word performances. Deanna Rogers, for example, who I've had the pleasure of working with before, incorporating spoken word into national level adverts. Like, I think that's got to say something, right?
And yeah, just to add on to that, Lauren, I think it has been more a bit more popular because obviously the internet age is there's obviously this big spread for anyone to access at any time. You don't have to be in this circle, have to be in this same town. Anyone basically just go on the internet and see these videos come up as well. And I think more people are just old enough to kind of admit I don't want mental illness or kind of in that vein that people come to me now hey, I'm not feeling great about it, so no one has to put on this facade anymore. So I think poetry kind of opens more to show how they try to feel on the inside more. And I think to really kind of emphasize why it's more popular now, to me this was kind of the big point. Well, there's this film that came out last year or the year before, I get confused. It's called Blind Spotting. It was like this big hit indie film. And it's about this African-American parolee, and sort of just doing the days of his last few months on parole before he's finally free. And it really does deal with funny enough, Black Lives Matter issues, with the police brutality and shooting with last year. And whenever he'll try and confront his feelings and how he kind of feel about today's issue, he'll do it through spoken word. Into a spoken word. I was like, that's actually a refreshing way to kind of go about things. It makes it feel more fresh and more visceral to watch. And I think that's just kind of the big highlight just for me personally. It was great to watch it in that sense.
That's amazing. So that was called Blind Spotting, was it?
Yeah.
And is it a feature film?
Yeah, it's a feature film, yeah.
Which is quite amazing, isn't it? I mean, I'm sure there are kind of other feature films that maybe house that same kind of spoken word within them, but it's obviously becoming more popular to a wider kind of maybe more mainstream audience. Do you think also that I kind of going off that, obviously through this time of lockdown and quarantining, so many gigs that people have kind of been cancelled because we can't meet up and go to them, and it's just not safe. So do you feel like platforms like Zoom have enabled the gigs to continue, and that more spoken word artists in the future will look towards video as a way of promoting their work?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think so. I think like because I think especially lockdown, because no one really has to do anything. They kind of just also turn to the internet, and there's only so much YouTube videos on like giveaways to watch. So I might as well just like turn to the music side to see people who you have been supporting in person or in gigs, and they say like they kind of make it more accessible to kind of just anyone to go on, just basically typing in is there. And it can have a little more connection as well, just like through just typing and like reactions and stuff like that. So, and I think people just kind of embracing more being inside. So like, and that's been going on for years now anyway. So I think it's kind of more of like full stop, like thinking like, hey, this could be an interesting way to go.
I think when it comes to spoken word events in particular, it's been really, really good having Zoom as a platform. I know I probably speak for other spoken word artists as well when I say this. I actually have experienced more gigs during lockdown than I had done before lockdown, because I live very rural, in a very rural place in Spain, and just having poetry events, like live poetry events, they're just not something that happen often here. So actually I think Zoom has been a really brilliant way of not only kind of connecting with poets that we already know and love, but it's been a really, I did a performance, for example, at a slam that was based in New Zealand, and it was a really good way to meet people from all around the world, you know. And actually, yeah, I think as much as I hate it sometimes, and I've been teaching all day and I've been looking at a screen all day, like I do think Zoom it's done a lot during lockdown that I think to help lift people's spirits, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's kind of it's a great tool that, you know, I mean, you're in Spain at the moment, and yet, you know, had we had a gig here in the UK, that would have been something that you might not have been able to attend, whereas now we kind of have this like free open platform for people internationally to get involved in. So that's really good. So have you, actually I will leave that to the end. So I'll first start off with Ben. So how did you and Laura come up with the premise of the video?
Well, as much as my ego wants to take credit for it, this was all Laura's idea. Yeah, I mean, obviously she wrote the book, and like she had this idea to focus on this particular paragraph you want to make into like a live action. Like she's the writer, she's the creator, and the vision. I was just the director. I was just filming. She's the Aaron Sorkin to my David Fincher. Okay, I was just trying to find the best way to try bring her vision to life.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that, you know, definitely comes across in the videos, like you listen to what she's saying, and the backdrop of Cornwall is just, it's so beautiful, and it's so beautiful to watch. What challenges or difficulties did you have when preparing and filming and editing the video? I guess this is for both of you, really.
Can I jump in with a quick thing, Ben?
Please do.
So I suppose, hopefully I don't get in trouble for this. For me personally, one of the biggest difficulties on set was, so I knew I wanted to film it at Botanic Mines, because obviously you've got the mine right down on the cliff, and even though there's mines all over Cornwall and it's such a big part of Cornwall's heritage, I just think that Botanic Mines in particular are particularly breathtaking because they're on the cliffs.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so the mine that's actually on the cliff, which is when we're filming inside the engine house, and when I'm stood in the window, that engine house is actually the engine house that is down on the cliffs. And you're allowed to explore it, but because it had been raining actually a few days before we were due to film, it was actually roped off. And well, I'm sure you've been in a similar boat before, when you want to film something so bad, and normally you can, and then when you see a rope, you're like, just a rope, right? So yeah, we actually were quite lucky to get away with that, because there were some American tourists that were kind of like, oh, what are those two doing? But I think they saw the camera and assumed we were doing something like official. So yeah, we got away with it.
Lucky, yeah. And plus, I come from a Werner Herzog school of filmmaking, as in, like, if it's worth getting a good shot, it's worth spending a night in jail. So I have that guerrilla type of filmmaking. The challenges from my side, just from a technical point of view, one was that obviously we didn't have a lot of budget, so I didn't have a crew, so it's just me and a camera. So like the sun was playing a bit of a difficult role on my hand there. Like obviously I want to get viewed, but like it's so bright. So like it's that tough balance between trying to get Laura lit right and trying to get the backdrop lit right. So like it's really hard to try to get the other. Like either I get the backdrop but Laura's too dark, or I get Laura covered but the backdrop's too light. So try to get. I hope I got that right. Doing color correction in editing. I don't know if you've done color correction in editing. There's all B words. It's like it's just a little bit that touches, and like it's trying to do it without getting pixelated or just a nightmare. But the worst part for my end was definitely the sound. Oh my god, the sound, yeah. Like as you can tell, like, I'm proud of the film. I love it, but sound's not the best. Like even with like it was quite a windy day, and the shots we had, especially down in the Battalion Mines, we were next to sea. It's quite big waves, so big crashes. Like you hear that. So I spent like just pulling my hair in editing. It's like I'm gonna try to get. It's like trying to alter the sound, trying to get a sound right. It's like oh my god, it's a nightmare. And I'm not a sound guy, so like I'm not the best. Like oh, that put a challenge myself. But hey, like I like the challenge, so it kind of put me in like a new skill of like how to do sound editing and editing. So I mean, I'm glad. I mean, personally, I should have like better sound equipment, but I'm glad it worked out. So at least I learned something.
Yeah, no, I think you guys had a hard time. I mean, filming outside you've got so many factors to consider. Like as you said, the light, the sound, and I think even without that it came across really, really well. Like even with the difficulties that you had, it came across really, really well. And yeah, I know the pain. It's especially when you've got a great shot and a great take, and then you've got like I don't know, like I've filmed on a beach before, and just even the footsteps on the sand, and you're like, oh no, how did that happen? But you live and you learn, and you take it on to your next project, don't you? And you just work with it.
I had a lot of fun. Like I think I actually probably got the easiest end of the stick, because all I had to do was scout the locations. So I went down about a week before to scout some like locations where I wanted to film specifically. And then yeah, all I had to do was keep an eye on the weather and then show up. So
well, I don't know if you got the better end of the stick here, because because the way this point answers your other question, but like the way I shot it was I just do one take of you just going through the whole line. Unlike you have the luxury of like Hollywood, like you several takes, like you say this part and then you cut to saying this part. Like I could maybe just go through the whole line of monologuing. So I mean, at least it made you go for work.
So did you? The way that you filmed it, because obviously it's filmed in sections. Did you kind of organise to have that filmed in sections, or did you do the whole poem in each location and then in the edit kind of section it out?
No, actually, that was I think you got right on the first part. Again, this was Laura's idea. She scouted location and thought this location would be great for this part of the poem, and then etc. I was like, just my job as a director was like it was just trying to frame it rightly. Like again, like I said, like she wanted to film in this location to say this part. So I think, okay, how would I, as the cameraman, try reflect like what she's saying in this moment? And yeah, I kind of just want to. Like someday I'll do like a soft focus to have in the background, maybe her sing, like that stuff. So anyway.
Awesome. And I mean, Laura, you wrote this poem. When did you write this poem? It was a few years ago, was it?
I think I wrote this poem in tail end of 2016. And I remember that because I'd only just started doing spoken word. And I remember Henry had done his poem, Henry Mann. If you get a chance to check him out, please do, those at home. He did a poem about Shropshire. And I remember thinking, not that I wanted to copy him, but I just remember thinking every spoken word artist needs a poem about where they grew up. And I loved his poem, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to write a poem about Cornwall. And yeah, so I think, yeah, it was end of 2016 I wrote this one.
Awesome. So when you wrote it, because obviously, you know, you can tell in the home in the poem that home, you know, is so important to you. And obviously, like you've lived abroad and you've gone away from home and then you've come back, and like what makes this concept of home so important, and why do you think every spoken word artist and poet should have a poem about their home?
I don't know how I would necessarily answer that in the sense of do every spoken word artist need a poem about home, but definitely where they grew up, I think, because you know, where you grow up has such a massive influence on how you are as a person, as an adult, you know, and has a massive effect on how you perceive things and kind of how you relate to people. So, you know, mannerisms that Cornish people have, you know, Cornish people will share those similar mannerisms no matter where they are in the country. You know, like I know I had friends at university that would take the mickey out of my accent sometimes because certain words, they're like, oh, you sound really Cornish when you say A, B, and C. And I think it's just, even if you don't necessarily like where you grew up, or you have even if you don't have a good relationship with where you grew up, I think it's just where you grew up plays such a role in shaping your identity as an adult. I think from that point of view, it's just good to have a poem about where you grew up. And I mean, as you can probably see from the video, like I do have a complicated relationship with my home, and you know, I did spend a lot of my teenage years resenting it. And I think, you know, sometimes you need to take a bit of a distance from things in order to truly appreciate them, you know, and that was definitely the case for me with Cornwall. I definitely just needed some time away before I could fully appreciate home.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that kind of speaks to everyone in a way of growing up and kind of, you know, feeling like just a bit kind of closed in, and then you go away and you experience something different, and then you come back and you really have this kind of nostalgia about, as you say, like where you grew up and all the kind of little things that make that place for you. Yeah, so why do you think the combination of poetry and video works, and how do the two platforms complement each other?
Oh, wow. Oh, that's an interesting question. Sorry, you want to go? Take this one?
No, you go. No, sorry.
How do the two comment? I think what it is, I think probably video is like a visual stimulant anyway. So like kind of a poem is supposed to be like an emotional stimulant, like you say, and then you kind of empathize more with the storyteller itself, and the video just kind of shows sort of like how they perceive things in life. And I think just the two combinations sort of feels like a similar fix. Like you can't just show something like a plastic bag and be like nothing, but if you have the words for it to back up, then it brings so much more meaning to it. Sorry, that was a reference to Milk and Beauty. So, but like I think like because when we have like I think in this video, in this case here, like I think just like the way Laura perceives how she sees Cornwall, I think I just want to have the video to show that sense of nirvana that really encapsulates what Cornwall and like I guess the whole landscape is all about, just like calm and ease. And when you just watch it and hear her talk about it, I guess her lovely voice, so like in a sense, it feels just like poetry in motion, literally.
Definitely. Laura, do you want to expand on that? Do you want to?
I was just going to say, I think it's really nice to have the visual element because while you can imagine the imagery when someone does a spoken word piece, I think having the visual element is just it gives it a whole other dimension, you know, and especially if you talk about things that are maybe very specific to your region. like Rattler. Actually, in the book, it says in brackets local cider, because I say Rattler, Ben says Rattler. We know exactly what we're talking about, but not everybody, knows these like kind of little nuances. And I think when you have little nuances like that, if you can have sort of the visuals behind it to kind of even further open that poem up to as many people as possible, I think it's just a really nice way of making your audience wider and inviting more people to partake in poem with you. Yeah,
that's great. So what was the best thing for both of you about filming the poem? Like what did you get out of it most, or what was just the most enjoyable aspect of it?
Well, I mean, maybe Laura could agree, disagree, but spending an afternoon with her in the landscape was also something positive. But I think just I like shooting outdoors anyway. I do photography, so it's kind of like in my nature to do like nice, cool-looking landscape shots, and just any excuse to make a film is just there anyway. And it was also like it's really refreshing, especially when Laura invited me. Like I live like an hour away from the location we shot at, so it was just nice being in this brand new environment, just be in like the nature, be next to the sea, just being in that location is just so relaxing, cathartic. It's just nice to be there, and it'd be nice to actually have something to work off as well. So like bring that back here on the computer and then make a film out of it. It's just nice,
For me, the location holds a lot of memories for me. So my grandfather came over from Italy to work in the mines, and we used to walk. He didn't work at metallic mines, he worked at Giva, which is where the next one's over. But we used to walk in metallic mines a lot. And Ben doesn't actually know this, but actually I I dressed up as an old Cornish lady, and I did storytelling at the Arsenic tunnels where we filmed the last scene. When I was 16, and it was a collaborative project that GCSE drama students did with the primary schools. And yeah, we basically were telling stories about Cornwall, and we were dressing up and acting them out, and we were moving our way around the site as we were telling the stories. And for me, it was nice to come full circle and do a spoken word piece in a place where, 9-10 years ago, I'd done a drama piece. It was just a really nice to come home. Yeah,
definitely. I was going to say that kind of full circle, seeing as 2016, that's when you think that you finished your poem as well, and you wrote that, so it's kind of all links up all together, isn't it? Like as a poet, Laura, why do you think it's like what kind of, why is it important to you to have this kind of visual element that goes along, and more than just a visual element, because obviously you have like the audio and everything, but why is it important to have that to go along with your work? And do you feel like what does it add to the piece as well?
So I guess particularly because I'm a very handsy person, like I use my hands a lot when I talk, I'm a very kind of performative person. I think that spoken word is a very performative thing, and while it can be written down, and obviously I do write page poetry sometimes, I really like kind of being on stage and relating to people in that way. And spoken word videos are a way of you can rewatch them, you can see them again and again, or if you want to see how that poet is, like you're thinking about booking that poet, watch one of their spoken word videos and you can see how they really perform a poem. And I think of poetry and music, they're very, like, lyrics are very similar in the sense that they want to bring in as many people as possible, and they want to try and speak to people and for people to relate to them. And I think, you get an album of music and the band will have sat down, and for some of those songs, they will have decided we're going to make a music video for that song. And I think I'd like to do that with my poems. There's been a select few from Lamb. So We Are Not Doormats, We Are Warriors was also made into a spoken word video a few years ago with Thanet Writers. And I just think, yeah, I'd love to be able to kind of, even if it's just 2 or 3 poems per book, have a spoken word video to accompany, you know, kind of my highlight reel, as it were, of poems. And yeah, obviously a poem about where I grew up had to make the shortlist. So yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, just as a filmmaker who has worked on spoken word pieces and poems, you know, I feel very lucky to be able to kind of be brought into such a personal piece of work, and be trusted, you know, as Ben said earlier, be trusted with, you know, being part of that and being able to relay to audiences in a visual and audio way, that poet's vision and that spoken word artist's vision, in their words and in their head. So I'm just trying to see what other I think we're coming to the end of our questions now, but when you first approached the project, what did you want to gain from it, and what did you really want the video to say, as an extension of the poem? We may have covered this slightly already, but
so I guess it's aimed at me again. What I wanted to do was, like I said, try and make the poem as open to as many people as possible. So maybe people that kind of had a vision of Cornwall in their heads but weren't quite sure could see what Cornwall was like. I also wanted to, you know, for the locals as well, so we could encapsulate some of the beauty of Cornwall in film. And also I wanted to be honest with people. You know, I wanted to show kind of the rough with the smooth. Like it's not always plain sailing, you know. But it is a beautiful place, and I'm glad I grew up there. And I wanted to really show both elements of that. And I think what better way of talking about Cornwall than showing some really iconic scenery that's so inherent to Cornwall's history. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It was like a story around that area as well, and it's really nice kind of having this discussion now to be able to know that that was part of your childhood, and you know what you were saying about your grandfather as well. That's really special. So thank you for sharing that with us. I just wanted to ask if you guys had any other projects coming up that you wanted to share with people, anything that we should be looking out for in the near future.
Well, we don't together planned yet, but I don't know if Ben has some solo stuff that he's got coming up soon.
Well, unfortunately no, because I think all my original projects have been were cut because obviously what's happened. So I think I just been working on some editing films here, like here and there, just mostly to like commercial work. But I'm hoping like maybe if something was changing, let's say August, hopefully we can bring our spoken word nights back if it's possible. It's always like been running around my head.
Awesome. And Laura, do you have any anything coming up that we should be aware of?
I'm actually taking a little break from writing at the moment, just because Turnstiles and Turnaround Smiles came out recently. We didn't really get a chance to promote it too well with lockdown and everything. So my plan will be to promote my second collection, Turnstiles and Turnaround Smiles, as much as possible, and obviously within safety guidelines over the summer. And aside from that, I'm trying to work on getting some funding down, so I can pursue my postponed project, which was meant to start in 2020, which is Del Community, which is sort of a queer community, and basically to get different pieces of artwork that will eventually be on show at the Queer Arts Festival in Vancouver in Canada is kind of end goal, and have an exhibition in London as well. But obviously everything's been postponed a year, so instead of collecting everything in 2020 and showcasing it in 2021, we're going to try and collect everything in 2021 and showcase it in 2022. So yeah, just working on behind the scenes, getting that sorted. So yeah, taking a little break from writing for the minute and producing. So helping to produce Winchester Festival. So if you're out there and you think, I haven't done anything on Zoom yet, and I want to do some poetry on Zoom, or I want to do some reading on Zoom, or I want to lead a workshop on Zoom, basically pretty much anything on Zoom we can do. So drop Whisky Beards Publishing, drop their Facebook page a message, and yeah, we'd love to hear from new artists and showcase new voices. And yeah, that's pretty much it, really.
That's great. Thanks, guys. Well, yeah, we'll definitely be keeping an eye out as to what's going on. And yeah, just thank you very much for coming and talking to us about it and being super open. And yeah, it was really interesting to kind of, having seen the poetry video, to then kind of gain some ideas about what had gone into it and everything like that. So yeah, so bringing this to a close, thank you, Laura, and thank you, Ben, and thank you as well. And yeah, keep an eye out, because I think there may be some more poetry and filmmaker collaboration videos coming soon. So thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Guys.
Bye.